One of the most common issues I see with people that I coach is the relationship to their parents. Now, why is that the case? So it's usually rooted in trauma. The adult who is kicking and screaming now, 4 decades later, is essentially just tapping into that 4-year-old child who went through whatever that 4-year-old child went through. And our judgment of our parents, who they were, how they did things, what they did or didn't do, how they weren't there in our perception, builds up and compounds like bad interests, this resentment and hate and judgment towards our parents. And we're sitting here 40 years later trying to tell our parents what they're doing wrong, how they could live better, how they can change their life, what they need to do, how they need to train. They don't understand peptides, they don't understand this and that. And what we're saying in our conversations to our parents is that they're not good enough the way they are. They need to change something in their life for us to love them, meaning that they're not good enough the way they are. And so then imagine you're probably a parent now, and you know how it could feel ungrateful sometimes being a parent. And we've all heard the story of how when I was a kid, it was like this, and I didn't have everything you have, and you don't appreciate what you have. How are we as parents now expecting our children to appreciate what they have, to understand the wide spectrum of perspective of being a child and being an adult, and not knowing the opposite side, and not knowing what starvation is, not knowing what hunger is, feeling bored because there's not a new show on TV, whereas when I was a kid, we were outside playing in the snow and it was cold and we were wet. How am I expecting that to make sense when we as adults don't appreciate what we have? And the little don't do what we say, they do what we do. So it's not until we as parents, adults, role models start appreciating what we have, appreciating the abundance that we actually have, living every moment in the present as much as possible. And now that we might be that middle generation where we have kids and we have parents, you can now start to realize how unappreciated your parents felt. And when we have this residual resentment and animosity or anger or judgment towards our parents now, and we might be 40 years old, imagine how long our parents have lived with that. And isn't it funny that with the amount of resentment and judgment I have of how we think our parents should have lived and done things, we're still struggling 4 decades later to do it with our kids, to live in the moment, to be kind, to be understanding, to be thoughtful, to be patient. I promise you that most of my clients start to tear up and even cry when they realize how they treat their parents. And most parents can feel that from their kids, how unappreciated they are. And that's how we treated our parents. And that's how we still treat our parents, because they constantly have to change and adapt and become better in order for us to love them, to just leave them alone, to just let them live their life in peace. And when I go through the Maestro method and I show them the path to seeing and feeling gratitude for our parents, to the point where we thank them for exactly who they are and exactly how things happened, now we come into peace. Now we don't have to be angry and upset and kick and scream like that little 4-year-old child inside your body who wants attention. That little child wants the attention, just like our children need attention now. And when they don't, they play up. And if we don't give ourselves the attention and treat ourselves with self-love, we also will play up, because we're desperately looking for attention outside, because we've let ourselves go inside. Right now is the best time to reach out for a Catalyst Clarity coaching session with myself. If you feel like you're stuck, you don't like your energy, you're displaying anger, outbursts, maybe depression, sadness, this would be a great time to break that cycle and going from a breakdown to a breakthrough, because that little child inside you deserves it and you deserve it. And then when we feel full, when we treat ourselves as if we love ourselves, we can also pass that knowledge, those traits and those habits forward to our parents and to our kids. Now is the time